Ever feel like you're stuck in a rut? You know, you can understand English like when you're watching a movie or listening to music,
Yeah.
but then when it comes to actually speaking, ugh, it's like your tongue turns to lead, right?
Oh, yeah, I've definitely been there.
Well, good news. In this deep dive, we're going to tackle that exact problem. We're going deep with this awesome podcast episode we found, and it's packed with tips for speaking English more confidently.
Sounds good to me. I'm all ears.
Okay, so the episode starts off by saying, like, we need to stop thinking about speaking English as this big, scary thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Like, instead of trying to speak in these, like, perfectly grammatically correct sentences right off the bat,
Yeah.
we should focus on just mastering, like, simple phrases. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah, absolutely. Like building blocks.
Exactly. And, you know, you were mentioning in your notes that you have trouble, like, ordering at a coffee shop.
Uh-huh.
So, like, maybe focus on just nailing down a couple of phrases, like, can I get a latte, please? Or could I have that to go?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, I think I get so caught up in trying to sound super fluent that I forget about the power of like simple phrases.
For sure. And the episode actually talks about that too. They say, like, instead of translating from your native language in your head, try to form your thoughts in English from the get-go.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Like thinking in English instead of translating in my head, I can see how that would help.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like you're cutting out the middleman. You know?
Yeah.
No more translating. Just straight to English.
I like that. Cutting out the middleman.
Yeah. You know, thinking about it, you mentioned struggling with verb tenses a while back. Maybe try incorporating some present tense verbs into your daily routine.
Yeah.
Like, you know, while you're cooking, you could say, I am chopping vegetables, or
Right.
I am adding spices. Just little things like that.
Oh, that's so smart. I could even like narrate my whole day in English.
Uh-huh, exactly. And the podcast episode actually suggests something similar to that. They call it the repeat what you hear technique. So like mimicking phrases from movies, podcasts, even just like everyday conversations. You know?
Ah, that makes so much sense. It's like you're passively absorbing all this good stuff, pronunciation, sentence structure, without even realizing it.
Right. It's like learning by osmosis.
I like.
Love that. And the episode talks about how talking to yourself throughout the day is like a secret weapon for practicing.
I can see that.
Yeah.
You're constantly getting those reps in.
Totally. And, you know, one thing that I think holds a lot of people back from speaking is this fear of making mistakes.
Oh, absolutely. The dreaded fear of messing up.
Yeah. But you know what? The podcast episode actually says that mistakes are inevitable. And they're actually really valuable learning opportunities. They even gave this great example. They said, like, even if you say, I go to store, instead of I am going to the store, people are still going to understand you.
Haha. Yeah, that's so true. It's not about being perfect. It's about getting your message across.
Exactly. And, you know, that ties into another point the episode made, which is, like, fluency isn't about achieving perfect grammar, especially when you're just starting out. It's about communicating effectively.
Yeah, I like that. It takes the pressure off a bit.
Right. And then they brought up this tip that I think is super helpful. They said to record yourself speaking.
Ooh, interesting. So you can hear how you sound.
Yeah, it might feel a little awkward at first,
Mm-hmm.
but it can be really insightful. You know, you can pinpoint areas where you need to improve, and you can actually track your progress over time. Hear how much better you're getting.
I've never thought about doing that before, but that makes a lot of sense, like becoming your own language coach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, you know, here's where I think the episode gets really practical. They recommend focusing on learning phrases rather than getting bogged down in all those complicated grammar rules.
Oh, yeah, like building up a toolbox of expressions you can use in different situations.
Exactly. And they actually gave some good examples of phrases to learn, like, can I have, or I don't understand, or could you please repeat that?
Those are good ones. Yeah, I can definitely see how those would come in handy. It's funny how we get so caught up in the grammar that we forget about the simple things, like basic phrases.
Yeah, for sure.
But hey, at least now we know, right? Totally. So basically, if you're feeling stuck on your English speaking journey, just remember, start small, think in English practice consistently, and don't be afraid to make a few mistakes along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And now I want to turn it over to you. What's one tip from this episode that really resonated with you? What are you going to try out today?
I think for me, it's the thinking in English thing. I'm going to try to catch myself when I'm translating in my head and force myself to think directly in English, even if it's just simple thoughts at first. I'm curious, what about you?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'll try that too. And I'm also going to try recording myself speaking, just for a few minutes. See what I sound like. Maybe I'll even post it online. Who knows?
Uh-huh. You never know. You could become the next big English learning influencer.
Maybe. But in all seriousness, This has been such a great deep dive. So many helpful tips. You know what? I actually feel more confident about speaking English already.
Me too. It's amazing how a few simple changes can make such a big difference. Thanks for taking the time to do this deep dive with me.
Of course. Always happy to chat. And to all our listeners out there, we're rooting for you. Keep practicing. And remember, you got this.
You got this.